there's other situations where this is a shot you have to hit, and you just have to, man up and hit it.
Rick, uncomfortable with Rickie Fowler's overt masculine statement, translates man up into something more gender neutral.
Step up and deliver. So, you turned pro in 2008, right?
2009.
2009. Yep. And you've had a phenomenal career. 9 wins on tour, right?
I have 5 on tour.
9 worldwide wins.
Somewhere around there.
I think that'd be quite nice for people listening and watching, the fact that even yourself, who's played golf to such an incredible level, been on tour since 2008, right?
Rick Shields has just had Rickie Fowler on his podcast. Let's look through the high points and the low points of the interview and try to figure out if Rickie is laying subtle hints that he's going to the LIV Golf Tour.
When you look back at that time frame, and I want to talk about what the future holds as well, do you feel proud of what you've achieved?
Rickie Fowler's typically thought of as an underachiever, considering his immense talent. But does Rick Shields also ask these questions to Tommy Fleetwood or Lee Westwood, 2 other guys who haven't won a major?
I feel like as a golfer, you're never satisfied.
Life is suffering is the main tenet of Buddhism, and suffering is often translated as a state of dissatisfaction. So Rickie Fowler fires back with some Buddhism.
Anything you regret of your career?
More bad Dr. Phil planting seeds of doubt into Rickie Fowler's brain when he doesn't need it at this point. He needs the confidence boost, and he doesn't need to reflect on negative emotions and negative times.
No, because I think it's wrong to live with regrets.
And I've been told that this golf course is outrageously difficult.
Norman did the original, and I think he was a part of the first and second renovation. Because obviously want to be back on, President's Cup and Ryder Cup teams. And
while you could say that Rickie is not going to LIV because he says he wants to play on the President's Cup and the Ryder Cup teams, we've heard that story before a few times. And at the end of the day, it's a little bit of a potential smokescreen.
Did you start playing golf really young?
Yeah, I started hitting balls and playing at 2.
This information probably pops up in a Google search in some random Golf Digest article. You got to do a little bit more research beforehand, Rick. Not Rickie, Rick Shields. And really get a little deeper with these pros. Don't make them regurgitate stuff that they've said 1,000 times before.
What do you see the pathway for the next 10 years? What would you love to have accomplished? What would you love to be saying that my greatest achievement is?
Rick Shields is at his worst when he does this psychologist, sports psychiatrist type questions where he gets people like Rickie here projecting way into the future. Let's focus on the issue at hand, because otherwise you just Google back in time in 10 years time, and there Rick can go back and say to Rickie, hey Rickie, remember 10 years ago when you said this? Let me point out some facts that show that X, Y, and Z didn't happen and devastate your self-esteem even more.
Justin Thomas is a good friend of yours, and Jordan Spieth.
Yep.
The fact that Rickie no longer mentions Bubba Watson as one of his best buddies anymore, maybe he's not going to LIV. He's very close with JT, and JT is very pro PGA Tour, whereas Spieth has wisely chosen to just remain under the surface of the water.
But can you grow a full beard?
I can't really.
So now we see Rick Shields trying to regain the psychological edge over Rickie Because Rick Shields obviously has great facial hair genetic growth, putting Rickie on his heels again. Rickie has to get defensive. But can this young lion roar once again?
I would never be able to get to where you're at.
Rick Shields, this is exactly what he wants. He's loving this part. I would never be able to get to where you're at, Rick Shields.
I didn't know I could get to where I was at until it started growing. I was like, hold on, it's quite decent.
It's fantastic, Rick Shields, and you know it's fantastic.
Be at least one major.
Think about the pressure that Rickie is under when he hangs out with Spieth all the time. Spieth has 3 majors, is younger, and has a lot more time to win a lot more majors. And then you've also got JT, who's got 2 PGA championships now, and you know rubs it into Rickie's face every minute. Every chance he gets, JT lets Rickie know that he has 0 majors. You saw the end of the match with JT and Spieth playing Tiger and Rory. JT is the guy you do not want to lose to.
He come second in 3 of the majors and third in the other.
I would say Valhalla PGA was probably my best shot, but Rory won.
That's Rory McIlroy, mention number 1. Let's continue.
At the Open, I finished second to Rory.
That's Rory McIlroy, mention number 2.
Just before we did this podcast, I put on my Instagram that I'm doing this podcast with you. What do you think was the most popular question?
I was shocked that this was the question that Rick Shields' fans chirped in most about regarding Rickie Fowler.
No idea.
Why you wear orange? Which?
The question is, why does Rickie Fowler wear orange? Do Rick Shields fans not Google at all? It's literally the most basic question about Rickie Fowler. Oklahoma State. He's a cowboy. The colors are orange.
I know the story of, but I'm surprised so many questions came about this.
Rick Shields, of course, knows why Rickie wears orange. He has to be shocked about the nature of his fans that they don't know that Rickie wears orange because of his college colors.
Was that being that was it more like non-US based?
It could be.
Exactly. Rickie also is stunned that his fans pull together and the most common question is regarding why Rickie wears orange.
I've got quite a global reach, but maybe
I know you're kind of big time. Outside of the US, it's very much you go to college, for what you want to do, life what.
Hilarious. Rickie points out that overseas, people actually go to college to learn skills that they want to apply for their post-college career. Whereas in the States, it's obviously, for a lot of people, just a way to practice their sports so that they can play at the professional level. And of course, that's only 0.0001% of them.
Someone's asked another random, what's your second favourite colour? They're presuming orange is your favourite colour.
Probably going blue.
It's just dawned on me, I want to thank you for something. RF33s, your irons.
These RF33 irons that Rickie put out, no one could hit them. They may single-handedly be the reason why Rickie went to a slump. If you're already struggling, then why go to blades that offer 0 forgiveness? Every YouTube reviewer, every guy out there was saying these clubs are impossible to hit. Looked great, impossible to hit.
The super bladed ones, the ones that 33 iterations.
RF33, Rickie Fowler 33. The 33 stands for 33 iterations. And apparently they needed a 34th. Rickie's not playing them anymore. At one point, Rickie went back to his old irons, the Cobra Amp Cell Pro, where there was the Rickie Fowler edition where they're all muscle backs, and there was also a line introduced to the public that weren't so muscle backed in the lower irons. I had them for a bit. They looked great. Really weren't that good of irons, to be honest. Even with the 8-9 pitching, which I assume would be the same ones that Rickie had because those were the muscle back irons.
What the ultimate goal, we were trying to just take the blades that I was playing and just give them a little different look.
Yeah.
The sole turned out.
Note that Rickie Fowler focuses on the looks a lot. He likes the color orange. Those RF33s were as orange as you could get. They were basically the golf club equivalent of having a spray-on tan.
With the technology and all the stuff that manufacturers know now, you can make more forgiving clubs that still feel and get the consistency of blades.
It's weird that Rickie mentions that all this technology that golf club manufacturers know now, as if his clubs were designed in the early 2000s. It was only a few years ago, Rickie. They had that technology then. Those clubs may have cost you some serious missed cuts and possible winning opportunities.
I am not necessarily messing around and tinkering too much.
Rickie Fowler just said he's not into messing around and tinkering too much, yet his irons were the RF33, again, with 33 iterations. Sounds like that's a lot of messing around.
When the putter's sold, to take it back, there has to be either some sort of lift or you have to take it up and outside.
Yeah.
This was actually a great point that Rickie Fowler makes about soling your putter, and that if you sole it, your first move has to be an up and, as he just mentioned, an out type stroke, which when I look at my own stroke, it's horrible. So Rickie is now just hovering his putter, which offers a few other issues, namely in high winds, but maybe something to consider, and maybe the best teaching tip point moment of this entire podcast.
People don't think they're putting necessarily weight on their putter, but if it's sold, it is kind of a form of an anchor on the ground.
Wow. We're actually all guilty of anchoring our putter.
This is from Tom. We'll start off with a good one. Tom Fox Dean. Have you ever had a sausage roll?
I have.
That's actually surprising that Rickie Fowler's had a sausage roll, considering that Rick Shields apparently eats most of them in the UK.
I'm guessing they don't sell them here.
Not really. There'd be versions that could be close to it, but
It's called a hot dog in the USA, or sausage peppers bratwurst. We have the same technology regarding highly processed meats with nitrates. I mean, you can eat pig snout and tail in many forms.
Last question. This is from Max Hume.
And this, the last question, is the real question that holds you in if you get through all the bland questions to this podcast. This is the one.
What do you think of the state of professional golf right now?
it's very interesting. I think ultimately it's going to end up in a better position for the players, hopefully for everyone in the whole game of golf. I've enjoyed kind of learning more about the ins and outs of the PGA Tour as well as LIV. I'd say it's kind of unfortunate that something like LIV had to, come to fruition to make the tour, get up off their chair and, do something.
Yeah.
I've always believed that the PGA Tour has been the best place to play, currently is, and a lot of us want to see it continue to be that.
Of course.
But yeah, you can't really just stay the same and expect to be the best. So yeah, it's been super interesting. I think a lot of people thought that live wasn't going to work or going to happen.
That's a subtle Roy reference. Roy reference number 4 if you're counting at home.
Imagine if live was backed by like Apple or Amazon. Because I also don't necessarily like that the kind of the one stance is just going after kind of the moral issue and being associated or with Saudi. It's like,
And the guy pushing that whole, when have you ever had to apologize for playing on the PGA Tour, Jay Monahan stance is directly pushed aside by Rickie Fowler right here.
no one's perfect, no one's clean.
Rickie, you are wise beyond your years.
Like I say, it probably has made, certainly from a player standpoint, they're in a much stronger position than they ever have been.
Mm-hmm.
They've got choices, and it sounds like the PGA Tour are obviously doing things to keep everybody and make it better for the players inevitably.
Yeah.
Suddenly finding tons of money and having the purses, in some cases, almost double. I'd say so, Rick Shields.
Everyone's trying. When we talked about like swing wise and all that and golf, like you're never satisfied. You always want more. So it's like, the tour's being pushed right now. The players want what's best. So everyone's learning and everyone's trying to move forward.
Do you think there needs to be a time where the tours need to meet?
I think the meeting should have taken place 4 or 5 years ago when this
boom
kind of came about. And that was the tour's first mistake was not meeting.
When Rickie says the tour's first mistake, you know that Rickie feels that the tour has made other mistakes.
Whether you agree or not, at least having the either heard the info or gotten the info for yourself, and going from there, I think maybe in a little different position than we are today.
Right, should we head out on the golf course?
I say we get.
Rick Shields didn't know which way Rickie would go with that. I don't know if Rick Shields loved that answer. He seems to be a little less pro-live, but that was the episode. Those were the key points. I hope you enjoyed it.